25 fast food items America killed off and why they had to die. You can still see the box it came in, the specific color of the wrapper, the smell that hit you before the bag even touched the table, the friend who introduced you to it, standing at the counter saying, "Trust me, just order it." For a lot of us, these items were not just food. They were a whole personality for a season of our life. The thing you ordered so often, the person taking your order started saying it before you did. And then, one afternoon, you pulled up to the drive-thru, said the name out loud like you had 1,000 times before, and the person on the other end of the speaker said 4 words that broke something in you. We don't have that anymore. There was a sandwich, a fried chicken chain invented and then quietly murdered twice. There was a breakfast item one company bet an entire new product category on, with a national ad campaign built around it that fell apart so fast the company barely speaks of it today. And there was a dessert so beloved that when it finally disappeared, it did not just upset customers, it became actual national news. Today we are counting down 25 American fast food items that vanished, and the real unglamorous reason you cannot order them anymore. Number 1 is the one that should have worked. It had the marketing budget, the celebrity ad campaign, and the full weight of a company betting its future on it. And it still collapsed in under a year. Let's get into it. Before we start, one small favor. As we go, keep a running count in your head of how many of these you actually ordered and drop that number in the comments. I read every single one, and if this brings back the specific ache of standing at a counter that no longer sells the thing you came for, hit subscribe because we do this every week. Number 25. We start small, with something most of the country never even got the chance to fall in love with. Burger King once sold Burger Buddies, small slider-style burgers built for kids, 2 to a box. More snack than meal. They were cheap and fun-sized, and for a certain kind of 9-year-old they felt like getting away with something. But Burger King already had a value menu doing the same job with more flexibility, and a kid's item for one narrow age group could not justify its own spot on the register. Burger Buddies were folded quietly into the value menu and never seen again. Number 24. Here's one that only existed in a single test market, which somehow makes people want it more. McDonald's Canada once ran the Big Extra, then a burger that split the difference between a Big Mac and a Quarter Pounder. One big beef patty, that familiar special sauce, but built like a proper quarter-pound burger instead of 2 thin ones. It had genuine fans north of the border. But McDonald's runs on a lean, standardized menu, and a regional hybrid that overlapped with 2 other bestsellers was, from a supply chain standpoint, redundant weight. When the company streamlined its Canadian lineup, the Big Extra was the first thing cut. Number 23. White Castle, the chain that basically invented the slider, once branched out into something stranger. Chicken rings, small ring-shaped pieces of breaded white meat chicken, built to be dipped and shared, a genuinely clever shape for a fast food item. They had a real following among regulars who wanted something different from the sliders. But White Castle's whole kitchen workflow is built around one product doing one thing extremely well, and a second fried protein with its own cook time quietly became more trouble than it was worth. Chicken rings disappeared from most locations, and White Castle went back to what White Castle does. Number 22. This one is not a burger chain at all, and that is exactly what made it special. Roy Rogers, the roast beef chain named after the cowboy actor, used to have something almost nobody else offered, a self-serve fixins bar, where you built your own roast beef sandwich with whatever toppings and sauces you wanted, piled as high as you dared. It felt less like fast food and more like a deli counter you controlled. But self-serve bars are expensive to keep stocked and sanitary, and as Roy Rogers shrank from a national chain to a regional one, the fixins bar became a luxury fewer locations could justify. Where it survives, fans treat it like a pilgrimage. Everywhere else, it is simply gone. Number 21. Now, to a sandwich that tried to solve a problem nobody asked Hardee's
we don't serve it cut in half at the restaurant so that the customer has the chance
once sold a fried bologna sandwich, thick-cut bologna fried on the flat top until the edges curled, stacked on a soft bun with mustard and onion. It was a genuinely southern, nostalgic item, the taste of a lot of people's childhood kitchens. But bologna carries a stigma in a fast food context that biscuits and gravy do not, and as Hardee's leaned harder into its breakfast identity, the odd regional sandwich quietly lost its shelf space. It slipped off the menu with no announcement at all. Number 20. Here's one built entirely around indulgence, from a company that once made indulgence its whole personality. A&W's Papa Burger was the flagship of a whole burger family. Papa, Mama, Teen, and Baby Burger, each one a different size for a different appetite. The Papa Burger was the big one, loaded with the works. The gimmick was genuinely charming for a while. But as A&W shrank from a national power to a smaller regional and mall food court presence, the whole themed burger family became more menu than the remaining locations could support. It was trimmed down to almost nothing, and the Papa Burger went with it. Number 19. This one belongs to the ice cream side of the menu. Dairy Queen's Beltbuster was exactly what the name promised. A triple meat, double cheeseburger stacked tall enough to need both hands. For a chain most people associate with soft serve, it was a genuine statement burger, ordered specifically because nowhere else nearby went quite that big. But building a triple burger consistently at a chain whose kitchens are optimized around frozen treats is a logistical headache most franchise owners stopped wanting. The Beltbuster faded from most menus, and Dairy Queen again went back to being first and foremost an ice cream stop. Number 18. Now to an idea that looked brilliant on a whiteboard and fell apart the moment real customers touched it. In the early 2000s, McDonald's tried to court the health-conscious lunch crowd with McSalad shakers, a full salad built inside a clear plastic cup, meant to be eaten one-handed while driving, shaking the dressing around instead of tossing it with a fork. On paper, it was clever. In practice, it was a mess. Dressing leaked, lettuce went soggy fast, and eating a salad one-handed while driving was exactly as difficult as it sounds. Sales never matched the ambition, and McDonald's discontinued the shakers within a few years. A lesson in how a good concept can be undone entirely by execution. Number 17. Here's a genuinely strange swing a lot of people forget Burger King ever took. In 2015, Burger King briefly sold the French fry burger, a beef patty topped with a full layer of crispy fries and mayo ketchup sauce stacked right into the sandwich. It was designed almost as a stunt. Food built to be photographed before it was built to be eaten regularly, and that turned out to be its ceiling. People bought one out of curiosity and did not come back for a second. Once the novelty wave passed, Burger King pulled it after a brief, limited run, exactly as planned from the start. Number 16. Now to a fish sandwich with a much sadder story than the one that survived. Jack in the Box's original fish sandwich. Moby Jack predates the chain's later, more famous seafood item by years. A simple fried whitefish fillet with tartar sauce and cheese. Aimed at the same Friday fasting Catholic customers, fish sandwiches across the industry were built to capture. But Jack in the Box's menu has always rotated hard, chasing whatever novelty was working, and a steady, unglamorous fish sandwich eventually lost kitchen space to flashier products. Moby Jack was phased out, and none of the seafood items that followed carry quite the same recognition among people old enough to remember the original. Number 15. Here's one for anyone who thinks dessert and soda should never have been separated. Wendy's once sold the Frosty Float, their famous Frosty blended directly with cola, part milkshake, part soda float. It solved a problem regulars had already been solving themselves for years by dumping their own Frosty into their own soda. But a specialty item that needed a slightly different prep step for a small slice of the dessert menu was an easy line to cut whenever the company simplified. The Frosty Float disappeared from most locations, and DIY once again became the only way to get it. Number 14. Now to a Taco Bell item with real staying power. The Cheeserito was about as simple as fast food gets, a warm flour tortilla with just red sauce and melted cheese. Cheap, comforting, and for a lot of kids, it was their actual first Taco Bell order. But low-price items are, brutally, the least profitable thing on any menu, and as Taco Bell pushed into bigger, higher-margin items through the 2000s, the humble Cheeserito could not justify its spot. It was discontinued, and there are still copycat recipes online from people chasing a two-ingredient item that somehow tastes like a very specific childhood. Number 13. Here's a piece of KFC's menu from before wraps took over the fast food conversation entirely. Chicken Littles were small, simple sandwiches, a single breaded chicken patty on a mini bun, sold cheap and fast, beloved by people who just wanted chicken without the ceremony. But as the industry shifted toward wraps and larger sandwiches in the 2000s, KFC repositioned its lineup around bigger ticket items with better margins. Chicken Littles quietly disappeared, replaced by toasted wraps and bigger sandwiches doing the same job for more money. Number 12. Staying with fast food, trying to be healthy for a minute. Here's Wendy's Fresh Stuffed Pitas, launched in the 1990s as a genuine attempt at something lighter. Grilled chicken or veggies wrapped in a warm pita with fresh vegetables and a choice of sauces, assembled fresh in front of you. It was ahead of its time, closer to what fast casual chains would do decades later. But making each pita to order slowed the line down during a lunch rush, and the ingredients needed more careful inventory than a standard burger. When Wendy's needed to speed up service, the labor-intensive pita line was one of the first things cut. Number 11. Here is a genuinely bold swing that a lot of people are shocked McDonald's ever attempted. In a handful of test markets in the early 2000s, McDonald's briefly sold hot diggity dogs, all-beef hot dogs at the world's biggest hamburger chain. It made a certain kind of sense on paper, a quick, cheap protein using equipment McDonald's already had. But McDonald's identity is so completely built around the burger that a hot dog felt to a lot of customers like a contradiction sitting right there on the tray. Sales never gave the company a reason to expand it, and the idea was quietly shelved before most of the country ever knew it existed. Number 10. Now to something that still exists, technically, just not for almost anyone reading this. McDonald's McLobster, a lobster roll on a hot dog-style bun, has been a real menu item for decades in a small handful of locations in Maine and Atlantic Canada, where fresh lobster is cheap and local. For everyone outside that tiny footprint, it might as well not exist, since lobster pricing is too volatile and regional to fit McDonald's standardized cost model. It never got killed everywhere at once. It just never got born everywhere at once. And for the other 49 states, the effect is the same either way. Quick pause here. We are almost halfway, and coming up are the ones with real cultural weight behind them, including the dessert that became actual news the week it disappeared, and the breakfast item with the biggest, strangest ad campaign on this list. Tell me in the comments which one you are most nostalgic for so far, and tap subscribe subscribe so the next countdown finds you. Back to it, number 9. Now to the original version of an item Burger King still nods to today. Burger King's very first non-burger sandwich was the Yumbo, a warm ham and cheese sandwich on a bun, sold all the way back in the late 1960s. It has the honor of being one of the very first items Burger King ever discontinued, pulled by the mid-1970s once the company realized customers overwhelmingly wanted the Whopper and its variations, not a deli sandwich. The Yumbo quietly vanished for decades, and its rare limited reappearances since have mostly been treated as a novelty nod rather than a real comeback. Number 8. Here's a Taco Bell item with a small but ferociously loyal following. The Mexi-Melt paired seasoned beef or chicken with melted cheese over a crispy tortilla, served open-faced, more like a Tex-Mex quesadilla than a taco. For over 2 decades, it held a stable spot on the menu, the order of choice for people who wanted something cheesy and different. But when Taco Bell went through a major menu simplification in 2013, the Mexi-Melt was one of the casualties, beloved by a dedicated minority but not popular enough with the broader base to earn its spot. It remains one of the most requested items in any Taco Bell comeback poll to this day. Number 7. Now to a genuinely oversized statement from a chain built on portion size as marketing. Carl's Jr.'s The Really Big Sandwich lived up to its name aggressively. A massive burger stacked with extra beef, cheese, bacon, and sauce. Marketed to people who wanted more than a normal burger could offer, it found real fans among the chain's core audience. But as culture shifted toward calorie awareness in the 2000s and 2010s, a burger whose entire pitch was more of everything became an easy target, and its size made it genuinely expensive to produce at scale. Carl's Jr. quietly retired it in favor of items that were large but slightly more restrained. Number 6. Staying at Taco Bell, here is one that actually became a permanent menu item before it disappeared, which makes the loss sting more. The Beefy Crunch Burrito started as a limited-time offer built around flaming hot Fritos, mixed right into the filling with seasoned beef, rice, and nacho cheese sauce. It performed well enough during its test run that Taco Bell made it permanent. A rare promotion from gimmick to real menu status. But permanent status did not mean permanent safety. Its dependency on a specific licensed Frito product made it more expensive to source than a standard item, and it was eventually cut anyway. Fans still consider it one of the great what-could-have-been items in Taco Bell history. Number 5. Now to Wendy's flagship burger for over a decade, and one of the more painful entries on this whole list for people who grew up in the 1990s. The big classic was Wendy's answer to the Whopper and the Big Mac. A single beef patty dressed with lettuce, tomato, onion, pickle, and a distinctive mayo ketchup blend on a Kaiser-style bun, positioned as the grown-up, no-nonsense burger option. For years, it was simply what you ordered at Wendy's if you wanted a proper burger. But when Dave Thomas himself pushed the company to refocus around a leaner, more modern lineup in the late 1990s, the big classic was phased out in favor of what eventually became the standard single, double, and triple burger lineup Wendy's still uses today. The big classic name disappeared entirely, even though pieces of its recipe live on in the burgers that replaced it. Number 4. Here is one Taco Bell has discontinued and reintroduced more than once, which tells you everything about how much people love it. The Enchirito wrapped seasoned beef, beans, and onions in a soft tortilla, smothered in red sauce and melted cheese, served flat on a plate with a fork. More like a small enchilada casserole than a typical Taco Bell item. It built a genuinely devoted following across decades, but its plate and fork format never fit neatly into a drive-through first business built around one-handed speed, and every time Taco Bell simplified its kitchen, the Enchirito's awkward format made it an easy target. It has vanished and briefly returned more than once, each time to genuine celebration, and each time it has eventually disappeared again. Number 3. Now to the top 3, and we start with a genuine piece of Americana that outlived almost every fast food trend that came after it, until it finally didn't. McDonald's original fried apple pie, crisp, deep-fried, and scalding hot in a way that generations of kids learned to respect the hard way, was on the menu essentially unchanged from the 1960s through the early 1990s. Then, as the broader industry moved away from deep-frying anything that did not absolutely need it, McDonald's switched almost the entire domestic lineup over to a baked apple pie, softer, less messy, and considered healthier. For most of the country, the fried version was gone for good. A small handful of international markets kept the fried recipe, which is exactly why travelers to certain countries still make a point of ordering McDonald's apple pie, specifically to taste what an entire generation of American kids grew up on. Number 2, and now the second most legendary loss on this entire list, one that did not just upset regular customers, it became genuine national news. In 2022, without much warning,
that the Choco Taco had been discontinued.
Like
Writing, unfortunately, the Choco Taco has been discontinued in both 1 count and 4
by its manufacturer. The Choco Taco had been a summer staple for close to 4 decades, sold through ice cream trucks and for years, through the actual Taco Bell drive-thru itself. The backlash when it disappeared was immediate and enormous. Headlines, petitions, celebrities publicly mourning it online. The official reason was almost insultingly boring. The manufacturer needed to consolidate production, and the Choco Taco's specialized shell-making process was not efficient enough to survive a factory retooling. The public outcry was so overwhelming that the company brought it back in select stores within a year. Proof that sometimes the loudest grief actually does get heard. Number 1. And the number 1 vanished fast food item of all time. The one with the biggest ad campaign and the fastest, most embarrassing collapse, the Waffle Taco. In 2014, Taco Bell launched its first ever national breakfast menu, and the Waffle Taco was the star of the whole campaign. A folded waffle wrapped around eggs, sausage, and cheese, served with a side of syrup, built specifically to go head-to-head with McDonald's breakfast dominance. The launch came with a massive television campaign, celebrity ads, and a genuine media blitz, treating it as the item that would finally break McDonald's grip on the morning drive-thru. But here is the part almost nobody remembers. The Waffle Taco was a nightmare to cook consistently. It required a fold that fell apart easily, it did not hold heat on the drive to work, and complaints about soggy, collapsed waffles started almost immediately. Worse, it simply was not very good, and word spread fast. Within about a year, quietly and with none of the fanfare of its launch, it was pulled entirely, while the rest of Taco Bell's breakfast lineup survived and eventually thrived. It remains a case study in how the biggest marketing budget in the world cannot save a product that does not survive contact with a real drive-through window. So step back and look at all 25. And the same 3 patterns show up again and again. First, taste was almost never the actual reason. The fixins bar was too labor-intensive, the McSalad shakers were too messy, the fresh stuffed pitas were too slow to build. Over and over, good food lost to the cold logistics of speed, cost, and kitchen space. The item itself was usually innocent. Second, these companies keep being surprised by how much we actually cared. The Choco Taco fans won. The Enchirito has come back more than once because fans refuse to let it stay gone. Every time a company assumes a discontinued item will be quietly forgotten, a determined slice of the internet proves them wrong. And third, what we are really grieving here is never really the sandwich. It is a specific version of a Tuesday afternoon. It is the friend who first ordered it for you. It is proof that a very particular version of a very particular year happened, and that it is not coming back, no matter how many times you ask the person at the counter. So tell me down in the comments, which of these did you order back in the day? Which one would you give almost anything to taste one more time? And more importantly, what is the one I missed? The one from your hometown or your specific childhood that nobody outside your family even remembers existed? I read every single comment, and the best ones become future videos. If this one brought a specific memory rushing back, hit subscribe because we bring these back to life together, one item at a time. And next time we are leaving the drive-thru behind entirely and heading into the cereal aisle of your childhood grocery store. 25 discontinued cereals America killed off, and the number 1 is the one you cried about in the store when your mum told you they stopped making it. Until next time.